Well, hello again. It's the 9th of April, so I just thought I'd give you a brief update. First thing I've got to say is thanks very much for the replies to my last sort of introductory video like this. The general preference seems to be for shorter videos, more shorter videos, so in line with that I'm more than happy to go with that. So for my next build I will attempt to split it into smaller chunks, say 15-20 minute, no more than 25-minute chunks if I can manage it. Some really good feedback, really appreciate it, so thanks. It appears that, you know, I'm getting quite a few subscribers now, so it's kind of making it quite you know, worth my while and quite gratifying to be doing this sort of thing. So a couple of things to share with you this week. Last time I showed you an Army Lynx that was under construction. That is now sort of it's 99% done now. There's a couple of very minor things. I did manage to lose a part of the launcher arm for the starboard tow missile setup, so I'm waiting for a replacement for that so that I can actually glue the starboard tow missile setup up so it matches the port side. Overall, the model came out pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with it. There's not really a great deal I can say about the build. I did use the Rotorcraft conversion set, although next time I'll be tempted more to build more of it myself. There was nothing in the conversion set really for the Army Lynx in particular that I didn't feel I could manage myself, and particularly the rotor blades. I feel that I could probably do a better, more consistent job if I made the whole blade from plastic sheet myself rather than using the conversion parts. That's not a reflection on the conversion, I hasten to add, it's just the way I prefer to model it. The conversion is fine as it is. And in addition to that, certainly it's for the Navy one you really do need the conversion set for things like the sponsons and things like that. So anyway, that's it more or less done. A couple of things. The tail rotor, there is a tail rotor included in the conversion, but I made that myself by chopping, modifying. I hope you can see that on the other camera here. I made that myself by chopping, modifying, pinning and reshaping. It just made a bit of a sturdier assembly for me than the conversion parts in resin. I've never been a big fan of resin. I prefer to use plastic wherever possible, and along with that, quite often I'll make a resin part myself, or I should say if a part comes in resin, I'll remake it in plastic myself, just because I prefer to use plastic wherever possible. Resin is not a very friendly product to use. The other things I did with the model, there's nothing I've added really spectacular. I did make intake and exhaust guards from Milliput, rolled and shaped over the existing parts. It's just a way of hiding the hole in the exhaust, so I didn't have to clean up the interior seam, and the clear plastic mesh guards for the intakes. I see why Airfix did it. It would be it's an incredibly difficult thing to get right in scale, but I just decided in this instance that I'd cover those up just to add a splash of colour as well. So it's done as you can see, it's a Royal Marines aircraft from Yeovilton in the mid-80s. So that's the Lynx. There's a couple of tiny little bits still to do to that, but that's waiting some replacement parts before I can do that. So yeah, that's where we were with the Lynx that I showed you last time. So I'm more or less ready to move on to the next project now. The next project for me is going to be the Kinetic Kfir C2/C7. This model turned up on Saturday. I've had a look in the box. It's a very, very nice model indeed. I think it's probably Kinetic's best 48 scale kit to date. Very happy with what's come in the box. I will be using an alternative set of decals on this. This is Isra decals, and it's a sheet from getting on 10 years ago now. They released this, and the reason I've got this is that I want to do an Ecuadorian aircraft, which were in 2 shades of green originally. They're all grey now, but when they were delivered they were in 2 shades of green. It's a really, really attractive scheme, and so that's the that's the scheme I'm intending to do with this one. It's a very, very nice model indeed. Points to note that I like are that you've got 3 styles of drop tank for it. They also include 2 complete noses, which you can see there. We went over this at a club meet a couple of days ago with a fine-tooth comb. We could see absolutely no difference at all between the 2 noses. Complete mystery as to why they've been included, because all the parts that are different are included as separate parts on the sprue anyway. But you get the Kafir C7 pave penny setup. You get you get the early and late ejector seats, the Mark 7 and the Mark 10. The Mark 10 being the one that was used on the Kafir C7. The fuselage. It's a bit of a strange one. This it's very nicely moulded, but they appear to have. If you can see where the air intake is join is, they've actually included part of the canard fairing on the main fuselage. There is another 48 scale kit due for release fairly shortly by a new company called Avant Garde Models, which looks really nice. And they've actually split the air intake further back, which means that the air intake parts, these parts, can either have the complete fairing on them or not. What this means to me is that if Kinetic want to do an earlier Kafir, one of the ones without the canards or with the early small style canards, they've got to do an entirely new fuselage sprue. Not the end of the world, and we're led to believe that actually tooling these things isn't that much of an issue these days. And in fairness, the fuselage and the air intake sprue is on its own sprue, so it's entirely possible that that's the way they've decided to go. But overall, again on a separate sprue, the wing parts, the Kafir C2, C7 style wings with the extended dog tooth, really nice detail. Really nice detail in the wheelbase. They've included air brakes separately. I'm not a huge fan of that. It's one of those gimmicks that you hardly ever saw on the aircraft, open on the aircraft at any point. Set of 500-pound snake eye bombs there, retarded bombs. Rockeye Mark 20 or CBU 100, I think they were renamed, cluster bombs, along with one HARM AGM-88 HARM missile, which is a bit of a strange inclusion, but I think it's just a generic sprue. Having said that, and looking at it, the HARM is actually a really, really nice piece of tooling. The nose shape in particular, which is difficult to get right on a HARM, they've pretty much nailed. We move on to one of the sub sprues here. You can see you've got full intake trunking here. The cockpit tub is quite nice, really quite detailed, things like nose wheel bays and stuff. Really nice detail, really impressed with that. That's just a duplicate sprue there with the tanks and stuff on it, the stores. Interesting to note that they've included the, I think it's the IAI Griffin laser guided bomb rather than the GBU-12. Same size bomb, just the Griffin that you see here is completely an Israeli design, although you could see either on the actual aircraft. And the other thing to note is a centerline multiple ejector rack with chaff dispensers moulded in. Decals are by Cartograph. You see that? They are designed by Isradeckel and printed by Cartograph, so the quality really is beyond reproach. And looking at it, it is a pretty impressive decal sheet. Small sub sprue here included. These are a couple of Python 3 air-to-air missiles, really nicely moulded. They will probably go on my one, because I know that Ecuador used the Python 3. And the paint instructions for a variety of Kfir C2/C7s. They're all later models. They've got none of the very early Kfir schemes with the red and yellow and black triangles on the wings, the ID triangles. They're all post sort of 1980. You've got some for the early 1980s scheme where they switched to two-tone grey, two-tone compass greys, and then later on when they switched back to the F-16 style camouflage, using the paler green 34424 as opposed to 34227 and light grey undersides. So variety of markings, really nicely done. Shows the quality or the sense of having a company like Isradeckel helping you out. So that's the new Kinetic Kfir. I should say I've got, in terms of extras turning up, I've already got the decal sheet there. The only other significant extra I've got turning up is I've ordered a Master Models Mirage 3/5 pitot tube, turned brass pitot tube for it, which will make it look better. So that's intended to be my next project. So hopefully I'll be doing a series of reasonably short, succinct videos on building and painting that for you. The other thing I've had turn up this week is I've ordered quite a large selection of AK Interactive acrylics. I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to paints. I don't really like the Euro style acrylics. I don't find they spray very well, but I thought I'd give these, that they're reassuring us that these spray differently and handle differently to all the other acrylics, because stuff like Vallejo, if you're painting general large areas, I find it goes down very, very well, very nicely indeed. The problem with these acrylics is that they do not fine line very well at all, and my mark of, or my sort of my baseline for a paint when I'm testing it is how well or how easily I can freehand it. So, being the eternal optimist, I ordered a whole stack of AK's primers and stuff like that, and I've been told that they're thinner, makes it very easy to freehand, so I ordered some of that as well. I'll just it doesn't smell like Vallejo thinner, so I'm presuming it's not the same. So anyway, these are a good selection of these that I got. I did some test spraying earlier this week. I laid down a coat of the primer onto a surface, which in fairness it went down very, very nicely. It's very dense, it dried quickly, very nice. I was suitably impressed. I then loaded my airbrush up with one of the airbrush colours, thinned it a little bit with this thinner here, and set about trying to freehand it. And having been reassured by AK Interactive that these are designed not to clog the tips of your airbrush and to be able to do fine lines, my initial results are quite disappointing, I have to say. They're not terribly different from most Euro acrylics. I still ran into problems very, very quickly with the airbrush clogging up and the tip, paint drying on the tip. So they're better. There's no doubt they're better than things like Vallejo, but they're still not as good as paints that I like to use. Stuff like you know, good old Tamiya acrylics, and the GSI Aqueous Hobby Colour. Those they just spray an absolute dream, thinned with a little bit of mist colour leveling thinner. And the difference really when you move from those to something like these paints is incredibly stark for me. It just feels like you're spraying a different thing altogether, which you are. So that's where we are at the moment. I will do more tests, because things like this Iraq and Afghanistan, particularly the German desert colours, which I want to use on a boxer kit I've got downstairs, are really unique colours. They're very nicely done. So we will have to see. But so far, I have to say the portents aren't as positive as I'd have liked. So that's where we are this week with what's going on in my hobby room. I hope the videos are some use to you. I will continue testing the AK interactive stuff, and should anything change in terms of using it, I will of course update you. So that's where we are. Next few videos hopefully will be the Kufir as I'm building it. So stay tuned, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, take care.